A grain as big as a hen's egg. Leo Tolstoy. One day, some children found in a ravine a thing shaped like a grain, with a groove down the middle, but as large as a hen's egg. A passerby saw it and bought it from the children for a penny. He took it to town and sold it to the king as a rarity. The king called his wise men and told them to find out about the thing. The wise men pondered over it but could not find an answer. One day, when the thing was lying on a windowsill, a hen flew in, pecked at it and made a hole in it. Then everyone saw that it was a grain of rye. The wise men went to the king and said, "It is a grain of rye." The king was surprised and ordered the learned men to find out when and where such a grain had grown. The wise men went to the king and said, "It is a grain of rye." The king was surprised and ordered the learned men to find out when and where such a grain had grown. They searched in their books but could find nothing about it. They returned to the king and said, "There is nothing about it in our books. You will have to ask the peasants. Perhaps some of them may have heard about it from their fathers." The king gave orders that an old peasant be brought before him. His attendants brought an old and bent, ash, pale, and toothless man to him. He tottered in with the help of 2 crutches. The king showed him the grain, but the old peasant could hardly see it. He took it, however, and felt it with his hands. The king asked him, "Can you not tell us where grain like this grows? Have you ever bought or sown any of it in your fields?" The old peasant was quite deaf, so with great difficulty he understood what the king had said. He answered, "I have never bought, sowed or reaped any such grain. When we bought rye, the grains were as small as they are now. But my father might have heard where such a grain grew." So the king sent for the old peasant's father. The father came walking with 1 crutch. The king showed him the grain, and the old peasant took a good look at it. The king asked him the same question. Though the father was hard of hearing, he could hear better than his son. He said, "I have never bought, sowed, or reaped any grain like this. Money was not yet in use in our time, so everyone grew his own rye. We shared with one another when we needed. Our grain was larger and yielded more flour than the present-day grain. But I never saw any like this. I have, however, heard my father say that in his time the grain was larger and yielded more flour than ours." The king sent for this old man's father. The peasant's grandfather walked without crutches. He could see, hear, and speak clearly. The king showed him the grain. The grandfather said, "It is long since I saw such a fine grain," and bit a piece off and tasted it. "It's the very same kind," he added. The king asked him the same question. The old man replied, "Rye like this used to grow everywhere in my time. I lived on rye like this in my youth and fed others on it. We used to sow, reap, and thresh grain like this. We knew nothing of money, so we never bought or sold. Each man had enough rye of his own." The king asked, "Where did you grow grain like this?" The grandfather answered, "My field was God's earth. Wherever I plowed, there was my field. Land was free, labor was the only thing men called their own." Answer 2 more questions, commanded the king. The first is, why did the earth cease to bear such grain? And the second is, why does your grandson walk with 2 crutches, your son with 1, and you with none? The old man answered, Today men have ceased to labor, and they depend on others' labor. But we lived according to God's law. We consumed what was our own and did not covet what others produced.